you are learning from the comfort of your homes. Please continue and be serious with your studies. Stay tuned as we continue. Previously, we discussed circulatory system. Now we'll be talking about nutrient cycling in nature. How nutrients are being circulated in the ecosystem. I still remain my humble self, Mr. Sule Emmanuel O. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to define cycling, explain how the ecosystem functions. You should also be able to briefly explain the cycling of carbon and oxygen in nature. You should be able to state the importance of carbon and oxygen to life. So we will dwell on the carbon and oxygen cycle in this lesson. Meaning of cycling. Cycling means the supply and movement of nutrients. These nutrients include carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, water, and other important elements from the environment into the various organisms, and then back from the various organisms into the environment for the maintenance of life and also the balance of the ecosystem. So this nutrient need to be circulated, need to be spread, need to be moved into the organism, and then from the organism also back into the ecosystem, so as life can be maintained and ecosystem could balance. Human activities have been upsetting the cycling of these important nutrients, causing many ecological problems. Hence, the need to understand how ecosystem functions in order to solve the problems created by our activities and to prevent their recurrence. So a lot of human activities have actually affected the ecosystem, the balance of the ecosystem, created a lot of problems, posed several problems on the living in the ecosystem. The carbon cycle. The process involved in making carbon available in the atmosphere include respiration, decay, combustion, and volcanic eruption. While photosynthesis is the only major response that takes or reduces carbon from the atmosphere. Now, before we check into the carbon cycle, the drawing, I want to believe you understand those terminologies that are involved in making carbon available in the atmosphere, such as respiration. Respiration is the breakdown, the breakdown of glucose to release energy. Decay has to do with the decomposition of organic matter in the soil, as brought about by the decomposer or saprophyte. Combustion means burning of organic matter in the presence of air. This release and make carbon available in the atmosphere. And then the volcanic eruption there, talking about volcanicity, the eruption of the molten magma beneath the earth crust. It brings about making carbon available in the atmosphere. Now let's see the diagram of the carbon cycle. Now in this diagram, you could observe or see that this is the reservoir of carbon in the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now look at the arrow indicating that plants obtain carbon from the atmosphere during the process of photosynthesis. Now this arrow shows that plant needs sunlight. It's taking sunlight energy for the process of photosynthesis. Carbon also must be present for photosynthesis to take place. So you see now, by photosynthesis, that carbon is being reduced or taken from the atmosphere. And then look at this smoke. It's auto and factory emissions, together with the smoke from the locomotive engine. All of them, they make carbon available in the atmosphere. Look at the arrow showing sending carbon into the atmosphere. And then this arrow from plant to the atmosphere is also showing that plant, during the process of respiration, carbon sent carbon into the atmosphere. And then this arrow also indicates that animals send carbon into the atmosphere during the process of respiration. Now, both plants and animal, they undergo decomposition and then fossilization to form this fossil record. When they fossilize, they form fossil and fossil fuels. The plant and animal, all of them undergo decomposition. Look at decay of organisms. So when these animals and plants, they die and they undergo decomposition. In the process, carbon is also sent into the atmosphere. The carbon cycle continues. Carbon is the main element in the compounds that make up living organisms, that is, the organic matters. Therefore, its availability in the ecosystem is a crucial factor in the substance of life. Carbon is found in the remains of living things as fossil fuels, such as coal, coke, and natural gas, as well as in inorganic salts like carbonate and carbon dioxide. Now, for the sustenance of life, this crucial factor called carbon is very, very important. Now, let's consider the importance of carbon to life. Carbon is an element which sustains the lives of both plants and animals. I told you earlier that it forms the major bulk. It's the element that forms the bulk of compound that make up the organic matter. Carbon serves as a raw material for photosynthesis. So it is required, it is necessary for photosynthesis to take place. And of course, you know the importance of photosynthesis to life of both plants and animals. It helps to replenish soil nutrients as plant roots absorb this carbon and the elements to grow. Carbon helps to purify the atmosphere and maintains the atmospheric level of carbon dioxide. It also forms the major building blocks of all organic matter. So we put all the organic matter together, the major element there is carbon. So these are some of the importance of carbon to life. Now let's briefly consider the oxygen cycle. The cycling of oxygen in nature is paramount as it brings about the release of energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, during aerobic respiration in living organisms. Oxygen makes up about one-fifth of the Earth's atmosphere, supplying the need of all respiratory organisms. Every organism that is alive today is by virtue of the oxygen that it accepts. So the following processes remove oxygen from the atmosphere: respiration, decay, and combustion. Take note of these three major processes that remove oxygen from the atmosphere: respiration, decay, and combustion. While photosynthesis is the only major process that makes oxygen available in the atmosphere. So by photosynthesis, the byproduct released into the atmosphere is oxygen. Let's see the diagram of the oxygen cycle below. Now in a well simplified and very beautiful diagram, you can see, when you imagine, look at this atmosphere is a reservoir of oxygen. Now look at the arrow indicating that plant is sending oxygen into the atmosphere. And plant create oxygen with photosynthesis. So what makes oxygen available in the atmosphere is by virtue of the process of photosynthesis. And then animal and plant breathe in oxygen. So they take oxygen from the atmosphere. Look at this arrow, showing that oxygen is being taken from the atmosphere by plants and animals during the process of respiration. So oxygen is needed for breathing, and it is taken from the atmosphere. Oxygen is made available in the atmosphere by the process of photosynthesis. So very simplified and very interesting. Carbon-oxygen balance. For every molecule of oxygen used up in cellular respiration, a molecule of carbon dioxide is given off. And for every molecule of carbon dioxide taken off during photosynthesis, a molecule of oxygen is given off. Therefore, oxygen cycle is carbon cycle in return. So, when the molecule of oxygen taken the use up by animals and plants during the process of respiration, equivalent and the corresponding molecule of carbon dioxide is given off. And for the process of photosynthesis, the molecule of carbon dioxide taken by plant for photosynthesis, the corresponding and the exact molecule of oxygen is given off. Deforestation and combustion of fossil fuels are two main human activities which affect the carbon and oxygen cycles in the ecosystem. Of course, the bringing down of trees is what I mean by this deforestation. Cutting of trees, destruction of forest, bringing down of trees is deforestation. And combustion, burning of fuels, fossil fuels such as firewood, coal, natural gas, that is combustion. Anything that is burning in the presence of oxygen is combustion. So these distort or affect the ecosystem, and these are the some of the human activities. A decrease in the atmospheric oxygen level by 2 to 8% does not cause any significant effect to the ecosystem, but a slight increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide may cause a greenhouse effect, which we also refer to as ozone layer depletion. Hence, increase in the retention of the sun's radiant or heat energy. I want to believe you've learned a lot from this lesson. Thank you.